Whose turn is it? Mine or yours?
Mine to read. You get to give the holy grail of questions. We also need to stop saying the word bag.
Why?
Just literally, I'm 12 years old.
What do you call it? Bag?
The bag of tea. Yes.
What a strange way to say that. Could I have one bag of tea, please?
Could I have a bag of peppermint tea, or could I have a satchel of peppermint tea?
A satchel of tea?
Look! Sachets!
No, they're not.
They are.
I'd show up with a side bag
Sachets.
and be like, here's, you want that loose tea? I have a bunch of it in my satchel. That says sachet. You don't say bag? Is
no, I do, but
Is that like an American thing? What does it mean?
No, stop it. That's for you, Michael, because I would have also believed you.
Are Americans the only ones who say bag?
Yes.
Bag is a hilarious term. So what does a British person call a bag?
Bad tea, honestly, because they like loosely, but they'll say a sachet.
Sachet.
Sachet, or bagged tea, or a bag of tea.
Actually.
Yeah. Could I have a bag of peppermint tea, please?
You like a cup of tea?
I feel deeply uncultured.
I think. We're gonna update.
No, this is quality content.
This
you
is
stay on
quality.
this.
What do British people call a bag of tea?
Are you about to get the answer?
We are.
They smell delicious.
They do.
Six and a half hours later.
No, they use bags.
What's up, everybody? I'm Joey.
I'm Jared.
And this is RIFFING. Cue the theme music. Oh, yeah. Ah. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, This is Riffing, where we take the most common questions that we receive in the studio, online, on the social medias, from friends and family, from pets, all around in the
Voiceosphere.
trademark right here. And we answer them live. And that's what everyone in the industry calls riffing.
Riffing. Look it up.
It is Jared's turn to pick from the tea box of wonder.
Oh, this is a good one. How do I expand my range?
And this is a very common one.
Both of us have in our intake emails, what are your goals?
Range expansion is always in there.
Which is hilarious when people will come in and then you're like, you have a 3.5 octave range.
Like,
what more did you expect or want?
You're being greedy. Hear that like one anecdote about Frank Sinatra having like a 5 octave range, which I just don't think could possibly be true.
The record shows I took the blows.
But you never hear him sing high and then you're recording. Where was he hiding it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he like hiccuped really high once and somebody recorded it and was like, oh!
That's it up there.
That's it.
So let's start general. We want to coordinate efficiencies in both mode 1 and mode 2, starting from where we are and beginning to slowly stretch. Range isn't something that happens overnight, right? It's coordination over time and is something that just takes consistency as you coordinate efficiencies throughout your range, throughout your voice. And I think that's the big delineation of how we think about things when we're thinking about training musical theater voices, is that we need to think about range in chest voice and in head voice. And a lot of that means coordinating chest voice sounds that are open and closed and coordinating head voice sounds that are open and closed, and then lofted sounds up above. When we think about that, we start to think about, okay, great, what sounds are coordinated right now? Because a lot of times people are asking that question because they're coordinated in a certain way
And want to get coordinated
in another way. So my head voice feels really consistent and I can stretch all the way up. It's the chest voice sounds that I really want to find range in.
I'm hitting the ceiling.
And that probably means that we have to think about coordinating both open and closed sounds here. There's probably an efficiency that leans towards one or the other in that lane. We're going to start to just coordinate those sounds the same way we would with the area you feel stronger in.
Yeah. And I think another important thing to look at is when we're thinking about range, we have two different types of range. We have our functional range, which is based on your physiology. My functional range is going to be different than Joey's. He's got a larger larynx than I do. So there's going to be a little bit more on bottom, and actually depending on the voice type, he might have a little bit more on top. So functional range is the actual extremes of what you can do. And we are, as voice teachers, looking at checking in with that every once in a while, because if somebody loses a portion of their functional range, it tells us that there's some kind of entanglement going on, and we want to free it up so that way you have access to your entire functional range. But then the other type of range that we care honestly more about is performable range. And that's the range where you can consistently show up and sing that every day.
Baby, if I could feel
a way that is exciting and satisfying for you and enjoyable for an audience.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think that they care about their functional range, and we realize, oh no, we actually care about that performable range. Oh, you might have a high A6, but if you can't actually sustain the C every day, then you aren't going to want to do that in public. So I think it's optimizing the coordination, which will ultimately help make sure that you have full functional range.
Yeah, it's interesting that the question always comes in like this, or as a goal where I want to expand my range, and there are about 4, 5, 6 more data points that we need to understand what you mean by that question. What type of sound are you trying to make? What are the goals for the range at all? The more nitty-gritty of like, okay, do you want to be able to touch that note, or do you want to be able to sustain that note? Do you want to be able to sustain it with vibrato? What all those elements then need context for what the demands are for that person and what they want to use that sound for.
Well, and then we think about like musical theater and most pop styles too. 80% of the singing for higher voices is happening between D4 and D5. And then for lower voices, 80% of the singing is happening between E flat 3 and E flat 4. Then we've got excursions on either side. We care more, honestly, about getting those zones really optimized, and that's going to help the expansion of range.
Another consideration there is that all voices are capable of a generally similar range. My larynx is a different shape than your larynx is a different shape than a higher voice is, or truly any other individual. All of those voices are capable of making mode 1, mode 2 sounds that are open and closed and have very inherently flexible instruments that can cover a large range.
And I've yet to meet a professional contralto who doesn't have a high C. So it's really interesting when people will come in, particularly if they're coming from the choir world or they've never really explored high voice. They're like, oh, I'm an alto, I can't sing high. And the honkingest, lowest of contraltos that I know can sing really high, so it's not that you can't. It's that right now we just have to expand that functional range, which will then get that performable range to be a little bit higher. Most every professional quality singer I know has high notes. And access to their low.
So to kind of put that together, when we're thinking about range, we need a couple more data points. What do you mean by range? In what area of your voice? What vocal color do you want? And for what goals that you have? To do that is not a sexy answer. It's slow coordinations over time, where you're building efficiencies in your voice through consistency and routine. That is how you expand your range. I feel good about that.
I feel very good about that.
Let's wrap it there then. Cue the outro.
That was our riff.